It's Zach Eady with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Kraig Bowers. It's been a minute since we've talked and did one of these shows, but figured it was a good time with practices having started, 2 weeks ago, or pretty much at this point, or a week and a half. Summer practices starting, players, newcomers starting to kind of file in. A couple of them not there yet, but will be eventually. Figured it was just a good time to talk through a lot of that stuff, talk through where Purdue basketball's at in our eyes right now. We are still a long ways away from the season, but it is becoming closer. 4 or 5 months away at this point. So excited to just kind of catch up, talk through where we're at with Purdue basketball and kind of just different things like that. Co-host Kraig Bowers, he was there at practices, so the first practice. So in a second, we'll definitely let him talk about kind of things he saw and different things that you just wouldn't get from not being able to be there. So before we get to that, though, Kraig, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Summertime. I'm not loving this heat, man. This like cosplay that Indiana's doing, trying to act like Mississippi. I'm either running at like 9:30 at night or real early in the morning right now. As you can see, I've got a lot of sun, so had been running mostly.
I do for me too. It's just I burn and I don't tan. But I promise.
I got you.
I promise. It's. I could show a lot paler than what it is right now.
I gotcha. But yeah, we're like 4 months away from exhibition, and we're a month and a half, 2 months. I don't remember exactly when the alumni game is. That's usually the first week of August. So
yeah, a little over a month.
A little bit over a month till the alumni game, and I think we get to go to another practice here in a couple of weeks. So we're getting back into the feel of things. It feels good. I know me and you were both ready for a little bit of a break when the season ends, because it's a long season, a great season, but a long season. But it's great to be back talking a little bit of Purdue basketball. I know a lot of people that watch the show were kind of hungry for some content. So wanted to get together, talk about that. I'm not a guy that I know, Joe, you can dissect videos and you do these video breakdowns of every incoming player and whatnot. I really just like putting my own eyes on guys before I make comments. That's just kind of who I am. I really love getting to a practice and actually seeing them against the type of caliber of player they're actually going to be playing against before I make too big a judgment calls one way or another about guys or what they might do well, what they might need to improve on, those sort of things. So it was great to be at practice. Only got to see one of the new guys because the other two, which we'll talk about later, weren't there quite yet. But going to get to see some action out of at least one of those two this weekend in FIBA U19 championships
this weekend
as well.
I didn't realize that was already this weekend.
Hey, yeah, I've got the entire schedule put together to share with the listeners so they know when to watch Omer and Daniel
Jacobson. Yep. Yeah. Yep. So definitely, there is basketball starting to come back. I have a look now. We're 130 days away from opening day of college basketball, 131 days away from Purdue's the home opener. 2 years in a row that I will be spending my birthday at Mackey as the home opener. Not a bad way to spend your birthday, I will say. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the new guys. I don't know how much you have or haven't watched them. I'm going to plug myself a little bit. On Feed the Post, it actually came out today. Wasn't planned that way. Just happened to be how the schedule fell. I do have my newcomer breakdown. So in-depth film breakdown, stats, and then just overall analysis. Pretty in-depth analysis on all four newcomers. That's on my Substack, Feed the Post. If you want that, you can go subscribe there, and do appreciate that. Also, anybody that's here, you're probably subscribed to us on YouTube if you're watching this one. But if you're here and you aren't, please consider subscribing. Or if you are subscribed, hit the like button. It does just help us out for these summer interviews. We'll get some previews, newcomer previews sometime over the next couple months. I'm not going to say specifics because we have not discussed that at all, but we will get to that for sure. And then before you know it, it'll be October, and we'll be talking about where they're ranked preseason and whether it's number 1 or 3. And then we'll be talking about the Kentucky exhibition, and then we'll be hopefully talking about their path to a potential national championship in Indianapolis. So going to be an exciting year. Definitely, like you said, I kind of just pushed through the break, but needed the break postseason, but eventually start getting back into it in terms of Purdue basketball specifically. I kind of just throw it to you now because I was not there at practice. You were. So I don't have any insight from practices. The first practice, I think it was the very first practice you were able to be there, correct?
Yeah, the very first one, and Painter kind of joked around it being, like a glorified open run. It was much more structured than that, but in those times, especially with the newer guys, they're just kind of trying to see what they can do, teach them some of their fundamentals in terms of their actions and how they're going to defend certain stuff from a very, very early on principle standpoint. So you don't want to ever like practice number 1 of the entire season, walk away with trying to take too much away from it. But I thought there were some things that definitely jumped out.
All right.
Obviously,
let's
go ahead.
I'm gonna just tee it up for you a little bit, and then you can dive in deeper from there.
Yeah.
Your one single biggest takeaway, and we've already thrown the caveat, first practice, don't want to overreact, all this stuff. If there was one single big takeaway that you had from the first practice, what would it be?
CJ Cox sophomore jump. I'm going to lean all the way into a CJ Cox sophomore jump. When they were scrimmaging, they did scrimmage a little bit at the end of that practice session. And it wasn't a true scrimmage, like point to point. It's where like Painter also awards points for defense and whatnot. But there was a stretch in there, and I don't know exactly how many points it was, but it felt like CJ either scored or assisted on every bucket for the team that he was playing with, which I believe he had TKR and Fletch on his team as well, if I remember right. But he looked aggressive. He looked confident, mid-range, layups, threes. He's working some of Braden's like shot fake and then past TKR, little drop-off type stuff into his game as well. I'm leaning all in on CJ Cox, huge sophomore. With that said, and I hope people that read my stuff on Twitter understand that like I'm trying to address the newcomers and the big questions first. Like I shouldn't have to say every single time like Braden Smith is a stud and TKR is a stud and Fletcher Lawyer's still bombing away from threes. Like we know all that. So when I get questions that are like, you didn't mention Braden and TKR till like your 9th point. Well, like, yeah, because we know they're studs. Like I don't need to address it the first thing right away every time, but that's where I'm going to go. The other one would be Daniel Jacobson is much bigger. I think he added 30 pounds and you could just physically see it right off the jump. He's added weight. He's much stouter. He's bigger bodied, especially in his legs. His legs look way bigger. The concern last year was how was he going to hold up in the Big Ten against real big centers that would try to bully ball him down low. I think that weight's really important to be able to hold up when we go up against those type of guys.
Yeah, and I think even towards the end of, I haven't seen Jacobson in person since March. Even then, though, you could see just some of the differences, and obviously now he's had even a few more months since then. And he made the U19 FIBA team, so we get some live action there, which will be good to see, and just kind of give him a little bit of a kind of emergence back into competitive basketball. Obviously, it never leaves you, but like still after taking, he's had what 8 months or something like that off of competitive basketball. We'll be going up against peers and players his age, so that'll definitely be good. So, all right, those are the two biggest takeaways. I know there's other things. Just kind of wanted to frame that up for you, but I'll let you kind of just run with it now. I don't know if you just want to go point by point or just go for a big spiel, but do whatever feels best to you about first practice.
Well, let's talk about the freshman a little bit that comes in, and Antoine West Jr. I did not realize he was as big as he was. To me, he looks every bit as tall, or maybe a little bit taller than Fletch out there. Looks like a guy who's spent time in the gym, come in terms of kind of like Jakari last year, where I just thought, okay, like his body's going to hold up against this competition. Not a guy that's going to have to go in and really try to beef up to be able to handle college basketball. And the guy's athletic, man. I know there's not much space to add like these young guys into the rotation. But he looks like a guy that could play if they need him. Especially, I haven't really dove into his film a bunch, so maybe you can tell me a little bit more about him defensively. But it looks like with his size and strength that he has, that maybe when you go up against teams with some longer wings or something like that, can he be a defensive piece for Purdue?
Yeah, no, I think he's in that Jakari type mold of like a defensive guy that can score. You saying that he's like every bit as big as Fletch is on. I mean, that's a positive to me because I think he's only listed at 6'2", 6'3". And Fletch is probably 6'4". I think he might be listed at 6'5". But yeah, if he is actually 6'4", and he's, I believe, only 18. So he could even grow a little bit more, get to like 6'5". That would be big, because then he would be the true kind of wing that we'll talk about later. I think is the only thing Purdue's maybe lacking a little bit of. But no, the defense is good. It's I have my notes pulled up. It's one of the strengths I have listed is his defense. He's also another guy that like I think he's just a really good passer. I don't know if he's necessarily a pure point guard. I probably not to me, but he's a guy that like, especially this year, right? Say Braden comes off pick and roll, it's a kick out to West. Like West is a guy that can take it, attack downhill, and he'll either maybe now he hits Jacobson or Clough on a little lob or a little dump off, or he can spray it back out to the 3-point line too. So he has those kind of the normal things you expect from painter guards at this point, like what he recruits, the passing. I think there's upside shooting. I think he might be a little bit streaky at first, but then he can defend. And especially this year, like if he's going to find minutes, I assume it's going to be because his defense is good enough that like you can sprinkle him in for 10 minutes. We don't have to talk about it too much. I mean, we could talk about it today. We don't really have set plans for what we're talking about, but like, I don't know where his minutes would come from, especially if I'm still big on Jakari. We know CJ's good already. You're already saying like, hey, this could be a big sophomore year too. Like if that happens and Jakari improves, like plus Meyer, I don't know where the minutes would come from this year. And then it's like, if he does redshirt, I think he would be one of the better red shirts Purdue has had, at least over recent run. I'm not going to act like I know what the red shirt situation was in like 2011.
Right. No, I think you're definitely right about that. And if he does redshirt, 100%, think he would be one of the better redshirts that Purdue's ever had from that standpoint. I guess he's listed at 6'3". Fletch is listed at 6'5". I might be exaggerating a little bit on the height. He's also got a lot more hair. He's also got a lot more hair up top than Fletch, so it might be a little bit deceiving from that standpoint. But to me, he definitely looks taller than Jakari. I could be wrong, but
I haven't seen him in person. I've just seen him on film. So I will be interested to see when I do get to see him in person for the first time. We did get a question from the chat from Derek Mulliken. How does Benner look? What's his role? Painter mentioned the force some. I mean, I have thoughts on Benner, but I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, I think, that was probably the next person that I was going to go to is, and if you listen to Painter interview after that practice, he talks about Benner definitely playing kind of a small four at times to be able to add spacing and to stretch the floor. I think a lot of that will come down to just how everything works out between him and Liam Murphy and like who's playing better and who can capture those minutes when they want a floor spacing four. Obviously, Murphy's a couple inches taller. Can Benter hold up at the four defensively? Are there going to be certain matchups where he's going to be plenty big enough? I thought for me, he definitely looks every part of the shooter that we've heard that he is. Really, really good shooter from outside. He can take some from deep as well. I was more impressed, honestly. When he came into campus last year, he was a guy that looked like, all right, like high school weight program maybe wasn't the greatest. And you can tell he's definitely leaner and that he's slimmed up, just looks more physical and athletic. But he was mixing it up under the rim, too. He was getting in there and rebounding the basketball and kind of throwing his body around. I hadn't seen a ton of Benter. But to me, like, his handle's pretty good. If he does end up playing some time at the 4, especially compared to what we usually have at the 4 in terms of being able to handle the ball, I think he's good there. I think if he plays, we're going to see him play some at the 3 and some at the 4. I think a lot of it's going to depend on the Liam Murphy issue, just in terms of coming back from that injury. He was held out from like hard contact in the practice, didn't play in the actual scrimmage, was just doing some drills where there wasn't a chance of his shoulder getting hit and that sort of thing. But, we can move right into Murphy, because Murphy shot looked elite and like very short motion, very repeatable, very quick. Does not take time at all for that to get out of his hand. And I did go back and watch several of his games from last year, and like, it didn't matter who they were playing, whether they were playing one of the power conference teams or whoever else. Like, if he's got a sliver of a look, he's going to take it. And I think he averaged like 8 3 attempts a game on 23, 24 minutes. I mean, that tells you like he's launching. If he's got a window, he's letting that thing go. And it's pretty. Now, I don't know. I guess, have you dug into the film on him already?
Yep.
I think there's some questions there when he does kind of grade up in conference, just how he does hold up at that 4 spot and underneath the rim, trying to get rebounds, defending other bigs, those types of things. Probably not going to be the ball handler that Benner would be as that floor spacing 4. But definitely a couple more inches in size out there than what Benner's going to be. So the Benner question to me is like, okay, is this the Brian Waddell thing from a couple of years ago, where like, man, he looks really good in practice, and man, he looks really good in these exhibition games, but you just can't find a way to work him in minutes wise?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it something else, and is he going to get some run due to people coming back from injury early on and figure out a way to carve out minutes for him this year? I think he definitely gets minutes at Purdue at some point.
Yeah.
To me, it's just how many minutes and for how long does that happen this year? But Painter likes things to work out organically. Like, he's not going in saying this is definitely Liam Murphy's spot or role. He's going to let that play out, between the two, and whoever's playing best is going to get those minutes, I think. Yeah,
and you can divide right there. You can divide up the minutes thing by basically 2 sections. There's the bigs, which is 80 minutes a game, right? The 4 and the 5, and then the guards, especially with Purdue, who's mainly going to run 3 guard lineups. And that's 120 total minutes. Now, for guards, Braden's for sure going to take 35. Hopefully it's 35 and not like 39. So that's what. So now there's already, after you do that, there's 85 left for Lawyer, Meyer, CJ Cox. Those are 3 for sure going to play. And already at this, like, all 3, or they would have to average under a combined 30 minutes per game, right? Because if there was 90 minutes left, then they could each average 30. I would assume Jakari has first crack at kind of that 4th guard spot, just based especially on what we saw later in the season, and then him really start to come along, and with the shooting and the defense is there, right? So you could, obviously you're not going to divide that up equally, but like that would be 20 to 25 minutes a game for those 4 guys, which I think, especially for sure, Lawyer, Meyer, CJ, from what we've seen, all 3 of them are probably deserving of 20 to 25 plus. I think Jakari is probably deserving of 10 to 15 at least if he doesn't take improvements. So then it gets in this weird spot of like, all right, where's the minutes coming from? And like, there's obviously the scenario, as you said, Painter lets this thing go. Like, he lets it go organically. If Benner's just outplaying like CJ or Jakari or, whatever, Benner's going to get the minutes. Like, it's not like that's a Benner can't do it. And then you flip to the bigs. I'm working under the assumption for now, Clough and Jacobson are just splitting 50-50 at the 5, like, more or less. Maybe one of them's 25 minutes, the other's 15. I couldn't tell you which one's which right now. TKR is going to play 30 minutes at the 4, so that leaves 10 minutes at the 4 between Murphy, Burgess, and potentially a small ball with Benner. So not a bad issue, a very good issue to have. Like, I don't know how these minutes are going to be played out. But you can quickly get into rotations where it's like, okay, well, there's just like not really minutes for these 8th, 9th, 10th guys that we think are very good, but like, it's because everybody else is just also really good on the team.
Well, this year
it's going to be interesting.
This year, 11th and 12th guys. When you're talking like Burgess and West Junior and whatnot, you're getting to 11, you're getting to 12 this year, and I think it's the deepest team that I can ever remember covering or talking about or watching from Purdue in terms of like, all right, well, somebody gets hurt, that 11th or 12th man can come in and give really good minutes and not drop off a ton, obviously, unless it's one of the big three, I guess, from that standpoint, but.
Also,
don't forget.
Click you want to, and I'll throw it right back to you. If you guys have questions, comments, throw them in the chat. Like we don't have a set kind of itinerary for this show, so if you have questions, we'll get to them. We have some start already, and we'll definitely get to those. So if you guys have stuff, throw them in the comments. Also, commenting just does help us out. All right, throw it back to you, Kraig. Whatever you were going to say.
I was just going to say, don't forget Burgess has to recover from the same surgery that Jacobson had, right? He had it at the end of the season. So I think timeline-wise, in terms of when Jacobson was cleared, he should be good to go, right around the beginning of the season.
Wait, Burgess said, did you say Burgess said, I sort of spaced. I understood 50% of what you said. You said Burgess had the same injury as Jacobson?
So Painter said in interview somewhere along the way that he had the same surgery as Jacobson.
Oh, I thought Burgess's thing was his foot.
I don't know. I'm just telling you what I remember Painter saying in that interview.
I'm not doubting you. I'm just going to try to look it up while you keep talking.
Yeah. Let's see. Indy Star.
Oh yeah, lower right leg.
Credit out to Nathan Baird. Bradley Burgess underwent successful surgery this week on lower right leg, the team announced on Thursday. So yeah, I'm assuming his timeline is relatively similar. So should be ready to go around the beginning of the season, but obviously it's going to take him a while to like get back into game shape, get back in the groove. So in terms of those other minutes, whatever the other 10 minutes or 12 minutes, whatever it ends up being, I think you're looking at Murphy or Benner in that spot, right? At that point.
And that's and I don't expect this to happen. That is also assuming that you can't play Clough and Jacobson together for a couple minutes. I don't think it would work, but like I don't think it's the craziest thing out there for that we see that pairing at some point on the floor together. Because then if that happens, that even eats into the minutes at the 4 even more. And I mean, I feel like this is a good position to put this one up. So Ben Smith said, I know Painter lets players decide whether or not to redshirt, but should Burgess make that choice this season? And as we kind of alluded to, right, he's coming back from injury. There's already a tight minute, I don't want to say restriction, but rotation where as of right now, obviously if Burgess comes back and he's playing awesome, he'll just get the minutes. But like as of right now, realistically, there's 10 minutes, 12 minutes max he could play if he takes a couple at the 5. Depending on how he recovers, I don't think it's the worst thing if he redshirts, but also I don't know if you necessarily want a redshirt just to like redshirt when the expectations are a national championship. Like that is just what the expectations are. So it's like, if there weren't those expectations, I would be more inclined to him doing it. As of right now, and this is again June 26th, things can change over the next few months. It's just with how good TKR is going to be and how instrumental Clough and Jacobson are, I find it difficult that he's going to find consistent run.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm kind of with you though, just with the expectations of this year. And we know like Painter likes to protect the long-term value of his players, both for the team and for the player, to maximize like their time on the court and long-term success of the program and everything else. But this feels like a year, maybe more than ever, that like if you're just going to push all the chips in and be like, I want all the tools in my toolbox that I have possible for the year, that this is that year. Final 4 in Indy. Braden, TKR, both going to be All-Americans as seniors. Fletch, one of the most lethal shooters in the country as a senior. This feels like a push all your chips in type of year to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, and we'll get back to the players in a sec, because I've kind of like danced around it anytime I've talked about Purdue and that, because I don't want to speak for like the entirety of the fan base to you. and people in the comments, you also can chime. Is like not that saying losing in the Final Four would be a disappointing season, but like, is the expectation a national championship to you?
I think that's tricky, right?
It is because your season's also defined by Big Ten championship and Final.
Yeah.
Like right, if say they
And
win the Big Ten and they make the Final Four and lose in it's like the first game, like obviously that's still a successful season, but it just feels different this year.
I think the expectation is a Final Four, but then if you get to the Final Four, the expectation is kind of win the thing, right? So
yeah.
I mean, I don't think fans are going into this year thinking like, man, if they don't win the national championship this year, it's a disappointment. But
yeah,
I think there's a lot of expectation that this team has as good a chance as anybody. I think they're the odds-on betting favorite, unless the one Houston player going back to Houston changed that. But I'm pretty sure with most sports books that Purdue's either number 1 or number 2 odds-on favorite to win it. So, I mean, that's expectation right there. So. Yeah, I mean, I think it's there. I think that's a lot of pressure to put on a team. To say that is the expectation. I think I'm comfortable saying the expectation is a very, very, very deep run.
Yeah. Then maybe that's fair. Where it's like the expectations, like where if they don't make a Final Four, then you can maybe categorize it more as a disappointing season. But if you make the Final Four and don't win the championship, I'm sure in a decade it'll be for sure look back as a good season. Maybe off rip it'll be a little bit disappointing, but in the future it'll be like, oh yeah, that was a great year. But just with Indy, it feels it's just kind of be the year. Like they're gonna be. I don't know exactly where they'll be in the preseason rankings. I assume 1 through 5 is.
I mean, right now they're 1 through 3.
1 through 3.
Yeah.
So,
pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, and that makes sense, given how much they have to return. So, was there? We kind of strayed from it. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about from first practice that you saw?
You mentioned Jakari and just how much he got better throughout the year. We look at his 3-point shooting percentage over the last 2 months, and it really, really came up. I believe he shot over 40% those last couple of months, and looked really comfortable, really confident. And I remember last summer, one of the things I said to you is, man, like, I know you said like he shoots it from outside well, but like it doesn't, like visually just did not jump off the page to me that way in those couple of summer practices I got to go to. But into season last year, shot way, way better from outside and looks every bit the part this summer. Like just in that practice, you just watch him shoot, whether it was in scrimmage time or drill time, whatever it is. That thing looks a lot smoother, a lot prettier than what I thought it did last summer at this time. So I expect him. And I'll tell you the other thing, like there's a couple times he threw it down. So
Get up.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a lot more. I went off about a sophomore jump for CJ, but I think it's every bit as good of a chance there for Jakari as well to have a sophomore jump. So it's going to be really interesting to see how 1 through 3 works out, just minutes wise and everything. Because Meyer's going to play, right? I just watched 30 minutes of film on him, and he's going to play, whether he starts or not. I've heard some national guys kind of just drop in him as a starter in their conversations or in their like list for next year. I think that's jumping the gun quite a bit for me in terms of him replacing CJ in the starting lineup, but the dude's good. Well, he's going to get minutes.
And let's go from there because we haven't talked about Meyer much. If I were to like guess right now, I do think he starts over CJ, but I also could see, I think there's a few different variables that go into this. The first thing is like, how good is Meyer actually defensively? And when I watch their film, I take a good amount of notes because I'm going through like 165 players and I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but then I can go back to my notes. And then just like it's a quick summary. I have strengths, weaknesses, and questions is just kind of like, like I'm not saying this will be bad. I don't know if it'll be good. And the biggest one for me is his perimeter defense. Like I think I see the upside. He has a really strong base. I think he can move pretty well. Has like decent foot speed. He's a little stiff in his hips, and I think that makes it tougher for him to like navigate some screens and really kind of open up his hips to try to maintain like drives going at him. But if the defense is good enough, I assume he would start over CJ. But and well, actually, we'll throw up the 199 super chat from Jason DePew first, off-season super chat. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the support as always. He also says, I still see the chance Fletcher ends up coming off the bench at some point this year. Love him to death, but someone may overtake him this year. Any thoughts? And my thoughts on that as a longtime Fletcher Loyer enthusiast and advocate, I don't want it to be just, oh, Loyer just come off the bench because like we have some solid guards. It's like, no, like we need to start like Meyer because of what he can do as a secondary ball handler. And then if the defense isn't quite there for Meyer, where he's just like fine, but not great, then it's like, all right, CJ, we need you in for the defense also. And now that brings Loyer in as the best sixth man in the entire country, probably. Like legitimately, like just going through him. I don't know all of the rosters, but it's got to be one of, if not the best sixth man in the country if he does that. I also think the other thing to this, before I finish my ramble, is like I could also see Loyer starting just because that's what he's done. And he's used to it and he's comfortable with it, but maybe he doesn't close every game. And it is some CJ and Meyer along with Braden, or if Jakari's good enough, or maybe Benner has a game, like whatever. So long-winded way of saying, I think it's possible Fletch comes off the bench. I think it's possible CJ or Meyer. I like one of them has to. I don't fully know which one. If I were to guess, my official guess on June 26th, and we'll come back to this as we do these shows. Right now, my official guess would be Loyer and Meyer, but we're 130 days away, so we'll see if that actually happens.
Yeah, I think it's going to be real interesting, and I think it may come down to more of just like how Painter wants that rotation to go through in terms of who's going to be on the floor at the same times. Yep. I could see it CJ coming off the bench. So when you have kind of that secondary rotation going through, you have a guy that can just go get buckets. Maybe when TKR is sitting his 10 minutes a game or that type of thing. So yeah, it'll be interesting. If I had to guess right now, I'm still going with CJ. I'm still going with my guy CJ wins out in this battle. Because the other thing to me, right, is so Meyer's going to play FIBA. Haven't officially heard whether he's gotten his student visa. I know Clough just went over his student visa because he had to renew it by November, and he just wanted to take care of it. Wasn't an issue or anything there. Wanted to take care of it before he came to campus, so it was done and it was over with. Haven't heard any sort of an update at all on Meyer, but he's going to go play FIBA U19 for however long that ends up going. Guessing he's going to have to go back home. Then he's going to have to come over. So going to be a couple months behind everybody else just in terms of getting up to speed and everything else. And is he going to understand all the defensive schemes, assignments, everything else that we've heard all these former players talk about that takes so long to incorporate and learn. So I think that plays into it for me a little bit. It's just like CJ's going to be ready to go at the beginning of the season. Maybe it flips during the season for me. But I'm locking my starting three with the same starting three guards as last year.
That's fair. And June 26th, we'll come back, and whenever the next time we bring it up, and we'll see if anything's changed. It is crazy, like the depth that there is. Right, one of Loyer, Meyer, CJ, Cox is going to be the sixth man, and one of Clough or Jacobson is coming off the bench. So your sixth and seventh man is a combo of those two groups. Right, and that's not even counting Jakari, and if Liam Murphy, is there and all that stuff. Like, I think more this year, maybe more than ever, it is simply going to be find the five guys to start that just like are most comfortable starting games, because game to game, who knows what the closing lineup will be, and maybe by March we do have like, nope, this is the closing lineup. But I think there's going to be, I think starters is going to be way less important this year compared to a lot of years, just given that if I'm being realistic right now, I could see any of 8 guys being in a closing lineup, and it would not shock me at all.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about the starting five that you predicted, and actually somebody asked this. So, I mean, you were predicting Smith, Loyer, Meyer, Clough, and TKR.
I don't know if I'm
just
Clough
did
or Jacobson yet, but
you said earlier. You said
Did
it
I?
earlier. Yeah. You said if I had to guess right now, Clough and TKR is what I thought you said.
Okay.
I'll go back and
no,
rewatch it.
I believe you. I believe you
Okay.
because that's what I do have listed on my depth chart. It's just I go
Yeah.
back and forth all the time.
But like if they did a whole shift hockey change, right? Then you're bringing in what? CJ at point, Jakari at the 2 or the 3. Probably Jakari at the 2, then Benner at the 3, Murphy at the 4, and Jacobson at the 5. Like that's a pretty decent 5 still.
It really
you're
is off
running
the
out
bench.
there. Now we'll never do a like whole shift hockey change, but still, it's a pretty impressive group. So for Derek, my starting 5 is the exact same early prediction right now, except CJ instead of Meyer. Outside of that, and then first off the bench would be in that case.
Oh, you have Clough starting. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and then my first off the bench, he usually subs 2 guys on, or at least he has been lately on that very first sub. So for me, then that would be Meyer and Jacobson.
Yep, and that's gonna. I think there's probably 7 starters on this team right now. Like, there's 7 starters with Jakari. He's going to be an 8th man, and I think he'd be an awesome 6th man. Like, that's just kind of where this team is at. Scott White asks, "Is there?" Oh,
sorry,
Scott White asks, "Is there such a situation as being too deep?" I don't think it'll be an issue for Purdue, just given kind of the culture that they've built, and I assume everybody that is here understands the expectations that we kind of talked about already. Like, I don't think Clough was getting into this being like, all right, I'm going to be a 30-minute a game guy for sure, and I'm going to get mine. It's probably more of like, hey, Purdue needs rebounding and rim protection, and you could probably do that for us and maybe win a national championship in the process. So I think everybody being bought in will be fine. I also do think by the time we get to March, the rotation is probably still going to shrink to 8, and maybe that causes a guy to transfer, which obviously isn't ideal, but it's kind of the landscape of college basketball that there is today. You just have to do it and deal with it, and if it happens, Purdue will. I expect to kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah, and even with the other 2 guys, if you listen, somebody had an interview for Golden Black when Meyer was out in Washington or Oregon for one of the events that was out there. And he very much was like, having talked to the Purdue coaches and whatnot, like, I want to go to some place and earn my minutes. Like, I don't expect them to be given to me, sort of statements. And then with Murphy, what is so perfect about him is he was only getting 23 minutes a game at North Florida last year, or 22, whatever it was. Like, so he's not expecting to get 24 minutes a game at Purdue probably. So he's obviously already bought in to being in that role and just helping a team try to get to a national championship. Caleb did say unseen as of now, but what do you anticipate for Meyer based on his tape overseas? We're going to do full player profiles later on this summer at some point. But just real quick, in my mind, and then Joe, you can add on, I think he's a really good creator. He's 6'4", he's a big body, he's muscular, can create for others, really good passer. He can get his own shot too. He'll come off that ball screen and drive all the way downhill and get to the rim. He's got a pretty good mid-range touch. 3-point shooting is streaky. I think he was 28% in last year's FIBA U18 through the 8 games or whatever it was that he played. But looking through all of his stats that I could find, it felt like he either shot like 50% or above from 3, but then he would have like a few games where he was like 0 of 7. You know what I mean? Or 0 of 6. So it seems to just be streaky from out there. On that Israel team, he's expected, like, he had 31 points in 2 games last year in U18. So, like, he's expected to carry a big load scoring wise. I think at Purdue, he's not going to have to. So if it's not there from 3 that night, it's not like he's the only one that can shoot from 3. He can just create from others and get to his mid range and get downhill. But
yeah, I mean, you hit a lot of it. Very streaky, and he was the second best player on that U18 Israel team. I didn't actually look at their roster. I assume he'd be the best on this U19. I can't imagine Ben Seraph is playing in it after just getting drafted, but
he's not.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, then Meyer's probably going to be the guy. I'm not going to, assuming it's kind of the same roster build. I'm not going to act like I'm in depth on the U19 world, but he'll probably be the guy for this U19. So it'll be good reps for him there. The shot making is just like it's just he can get on an absolute heater from three, but also mid range. Like, and I think one of my concerns is going to be what the interior finishing looks like. I don't think it was like the best touch that he had from what I've seen, but he has that mid range as kind of his counter to everything of like, all right, I'm going to come off the screen, I'm going to get you off balance, and because I have such a strong base and I am always on balance, I'm going to be able to get to my shot whenever I want.
Yeah.
Solid passer. I think doesn't force for the most part, does a pretty good job there. And then we'll see what the defense is. Like, I think there's clear upside to him being a good defender. I also think he might just be solid, and that might be good enough for this team to be solid defensively. I don't know if he is, like, I don't know. I almost would expect him to be like probably a little worse than West defensively off rip. But we'll see. I mean, we'll dive, like you said, we'll dive into it more this summer, but yeah, the shot making is just, it's why you go and got him. Like, he can play off ball, he can run pick and roll. He's smart. Like, he seemed to have a pretty good IQ. He fits exactly what Purdue kind of wants in those guards, and especially as he's sort of the guy going to be after Braden.
Yeah, and to that point, just watching some of the film, in terms of the way he operated in, pick and roll offense and coming off screens, also, it just very much felt like, as I was watching, like, oh, this is how you put him in and use him at Purdue. This is how you work with him with TKR. This is how you use him when he's off ball and not playing the point guard position, backing up Braden. Like, it looked perfect. And it looked like a perfect fit. You had to think with him playing with Travion that Travion was like, dude, like, you're going to fit in Purdue's system.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a great thing for you.
Yeah, 100%. And like, he got to play in the EuroLeague, like the highest level. We said this about Kasparas Yakuchonis last season, like who was at Illinois and just got drafted. It's just like, yeah, dudes their age just don't, like, that's not a common thing. And yes, he was more of a bench warmer and spot minutes, but like, even just making the roster and being a part of the like top tier, top league team, that's just not things that happen for people his age. I mean, he is he'll be 19 in October, so he'll turn 19 right before the start of the season. I'm very excited to see what he's going to be able to do, not only this year, but potentially the following year as well. Let's see. There's a few other starred comments. We already did Benner. Scott White says, where can we see the FIBA games? Kraig, it sounds like you'll be putting something out, but they'll all be on YouTube. If you just look up FIBA U19 basketball on YouTube, the FIBA channel will pop up, and honestly, it's a really well run program and system where you'll quickly be able to find everything you need. FIBA U19 USA basketball. It'll pop up very quickly.
Yeah. Or, I mean, yeah, FIBA just has its channel. So you'll be able to find Omer on there as well. So they'll play Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, both teams, Israel and the U.S. So U.S. plays Australia at 11:15 on Saturday. Israel plays Switzerland at 2 on Saturday. On Sunday, Israel plays Jordan at 10:45, and the U.S. plays France at 2. And then on July 1st, the U.S. plays Cameroon, and Israel plays the Dominican Republic at 2. So basically, if you just remember, I need to be watching YouTube at around 11 each of those 3 days, and around 2 each of those 3 days, you're going to get to watch a Purdue player play. That's obviously group play, and then they'll go into, the rest of it from there.
And the best thing about it, because I use it every single offseason, is you can just, with it being YouTube, you can very easily go back and find games. Like, I won't be able to watch live this weekend, but I'll catch them at some point this summer. So yeah, that's where that is. Let's see. Dave Head said, Paint said Cox is a 2 and not a 3. Seemed like Paint was hinting Fletch more time at 3. Who else do we see getting most of their time at 2, and who more time as a 3? I'm just going to say my piece on this. I don't care really about 2s and 3s. Like, specifically with how this roster is built, they're all interchangeable. Like, Braden is a point guard. He is the only true natural point guard I think on the roster. Everybody else to me is like I don't think there's any combo of Lawyer, Meyer, CJ Cox, and Jakari Harris. Let me just quickly think through this before I say it. Yeah, I don't think there's any combo of those two that I would be like, oh, I don't like how those two fit together. And so some of them are going to be guarding threes and twos. They're going to be switching everything anyways on the perimeter if there's guard to guard action. I think the bigger takeaway for me is just that like it's going with Fletch being designated as the three like he was last year. It is kind of just reconfirming lots of 3-guard lineups is what's going to be happening.
Yeah, and I mean the way Purdue clarifies their positionality. He can't really play more at the 3 than he did last year because he was playing the 3 basically all the time, unless they did go to the small ball lineup where Miles was in and Cam was at the 4. Then Miles was more of the 3. But most of Fletch's career, he's been the considered 3 on the roster or in the lineup as the way they run things. But yeah, I mean, I think Cox and Braden and Meyer's tricky because Meyer could probably play 1 through 3 at 6'4" with his size. So, but yeah, Braden and CJ definitely 1s and 2s, and then Jakari can fit in that 2 through 3 role as well.
Yeah, and that's where the classification will be, where it's like CJ and Jakari are more or less the same position to me. Just CJ can slide to the 1. As long as they hold up defensively, it just doesn't matter, and that's going to be the big thing. And I'm actually going to take that as a segue to kind of get. We'll come back to more of the comments, and we do appreciate everybody that has tuned in. I don't think we'll go crazy long today, but maybe we'll just keep going. I don't know. Do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're here, like, subscribe, all of that does help us out a lot. We'll get back to some of the start comments in a second, but I just kind of want to talk about like where we're at with this Purdue roster right now. With, again, I'm going to reiterate it for the 17th time. This is June 26th. Like, we are 130 days away from college basketball beginning, 131 days from Purdue playing for the first time. Things can change, right? And we'll get more info and watch more film and all this stuff. But just kind of wanted to see like where we're at with this Purdue team right now. And I can go first if you want. If not, you can. But I'll just go ahead. And where my thought is with this team is like I still have some concerns defensively, and more what it is less of like, oh, I think this defense is going to be bad. It's more of this feels like a lot of pressure and a big bet on Clough and Jacobson are just good enough to cover up the holes, right? Where it's you look at last year's defense and you're like, oh, there was upside, right? And we all remember when Purdue's defense was on a roll, and it was basically like, oh well, they just couldn't rebound and nobody could protect the rim. There's a very good chance that is just like plotting in, Jacobson, who will be one of the better shot blockers in the conference from day one, and Clough, who's maybe not as pure of a shot blocker, but does a good job just kind of in rim deterrence, that deep drop coverage that Purdue wants to play. That just those two is good enough. We're now, right, we can get back the I don't know if it'll be as good as it won't be as good as Edie's senior year, but like that type of defense where it's, hey, we're just going to funnel everything to the big, have them be in drop coverage. And what I mean by that is where when pick and rolls happen, the big who is guarding the screener is just going to be kind of camped in the paint more or less. Like if those two are just good enough, it won't matter. But the one, I guess concern I had with this roster build is that there is not a big wing defender. Right. I don't expect Benner to be a good defender right away. Meyer is their best bets and he's still 6'4". But I also understand that it's betting on like, well, we're going to have, there's going to be plenty of size down low to protect the rim. And you expect CJ and Jakari to only get better defensively, that's going to be good enough. And so you value a little bit of that continuity over maybe going and getting a player that might fit, but could throw off some minutes. And we already talked about, right? Minutes are tight as it is. So that's my biggest concern. It's just that like the perimeter defense isn't going to be great again. And now you combine it with like, it has like Clough and Jacobson have to be good defensively to me. Now, the flip side of that is I'm rambling here. If I were to set the line at over under 1.5 for where Purdue's offense ranks on KenPom at the end of the year, like I would bet, or it's a weird one because the under is what I would say. Like I would bet them to be number one. I think that this, like to me, realistic, like we'll say 90th percentile outcome is that Purdue has the best offense in the country by a decent bits, and they have the 20th to 25th best defense. Did I say defense twice? I don't know. I'm rambling a lot right now. It's been a while. Number one offense, 20 to 25 defense. Like I think that is a national championship team. I like. Then the ceiling is that this offense is like simply one of the best we've seen in the past 20 years. Like we talked. Well, to keep it at the top 7. It's just like, or say the starting 5 is my starting 5 that I said: Smith, Lawyer, Meyer, TKR, and Clough. Your 4th and 5th options are Omer Meyer and Oscar Clough, or insert CJ Cox and Daniel Jacobson. Like those are your 4th and 5th options behind the best point guard in the entire country, the best probably short roll guy in the entire country, like with the best 2-man game in Braden and TKR. One of, if not like the most, honestly, one of the best shooters period in the country in Lawyer. It's just like, yeah, the offense is going to be incredible. So that was a lot, and I'll throw it to you now.
I'm also worried about them defensively when we are playing big wings, because last year I felt like that basically fell to Caleb to be able to take on that role when we were playing big 4s that could move and were athletic and could shoot from outside. Sometimes he did really well with that, and sometimes he didn't. Honestly, though, like if I look back on Purdue history, I can't remember a time, probably since we had Vincent Edwards, where I wasn't worried about really good 4s coming in and damaging Purdue, just because of the way it seems like the roster's been assembled, and we haven't had just really good big 4s necessarily in terms of outside presence and athleticism. So yeah, I'm worried about that, but I think rebounding fixes so much, because I mean, you're bringing in Clough, who was the number 1 in the country in defensive rebound percentage. He was number 5 in offensive rebound percentage. And when you're getting those rebounds so they can't turn and go, and you're getting offensive rebounds and being able to put it back in, I realize that's an offensive stat, but you're getting that next rebound. They're not getting it and taking off and going right away. They're having to take it out from the baseline. I think rebounding just changes so much, and I think that was one of the reasons we struggled so much. And then, like, to me, neither of them are Zach, right? But you have a rim presence there. And the other thing that really stood out to me in practice was, like, Jacobson disrupts passes too. When he's kind of in that middle or whatever, like his arms are so long, he was tipping passes as well. And I think both of those guys will be improvements, obviously, down low. I think we will be able to funnel things kind of to those bigs a little bit more and have that rim protection. But probably, I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? Having those 2 guys defensively is the biggest thing. Yeah. But I am really high on CJ and Jakari, living up to all the defensive hype coming into last season. Now that they've had a year in this system and they're not thinking about where they're supposed to be, it's just ingrained in them and they're there.
Yeah, and that's fair. And you did bring up kind of the other point that I forgot with my defensive spiel is like right? People can say what they want about first. And yes, it maybe wasn't the absolute best, but as you said, those kind of athletic 4s in that, it was first that guarded them. Ace Bailey, did they have, I'm trying to remember, did they even play Brooks Barnheiser? Was he hurt at that point?
No,
but like those
Dawson Garcia.
Oh yes. So he was on Martinelli, Dawson Garcia, those guys. Like TKR is, he was the 4 quote unquote next to first last season, but he guarded 5s, like bigger, slower 5s. Like that's who he was guarding. He now does have to go out on the perimeter and guard those guys, right? Now the trade-off of that, as we've said, is now you have legit rim protection on the backside. So maybe it's not a big deal, but like that is the other thing I'll monitor as well.
He had to do that the year before too. But he was averaging like 22, 23 minutes a game, and you had Edey on the backside. But yeah, I mean, I think
he didn't have a usage rate of, what did he have? A 31% usage rate last year. He also did not have that 2 years ago.
So question for you, and I'm with you on the offense. I think it's going to be just absolutely sick, absolutely ridiculous. When you look, obviously Purdue has another good non-conference. Who knows what it will be? Everybody's got these way too early polls right now. It's actually not quite as stout as the last couple of years, especially not the Maui year. There's a lot of really good ranked teams in the non-conference, but it's more like 10 through 20 this year, whereas the last couple of years it's been like 1 through 10 ranked teams. Now that could very well change by the time we play them as well, and I'm really looking forward to those tests in the non-conference. But when you look at the Big Ten schedule, have you looked like how we broke out on road games and home games? Because when that
I have
Big
not
Ten
dug deep into it, no.
Last year we did a schedule show. I'm sure we'll do something similar again. But just real quick, like when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, like we're going to kill the Big Ten. Because we get Maryland, Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State, Washington, Oregon, only at home. Okay?
Oh.
Our road games are Maryland, Nebraska, Northwestern, Ohio State, Rutgers, UCLA, and USC. How many of those teams that I listed as road teams will you have in the top half of the Big Ten going into the year? Ballpark.
I didn't fully comprehend all the names, but I think 2.
Right.
UCLA and probably I'm just going to one of the maybe Nebraska sneaks in. I don't know. Something like that. Probably 2.
Right. And then home and away, IU, Iowa, Wisconsin. Like when that came out, I was like, oh man, we are annihilating the Big Ten this year. 3 or 4 games.
That is a good break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they'll be the favorites for the Big Ten. I know Michigan. I haven't dug into Michigan yet. I know they'll be up there. I know there's hype for Illinois. I think UCLA, I'll just be bought in again. Nebraska is going to be my team. That's just, I think they're going to be probably a little bit underranked. I think I'll be higher on them, but I haven't gone through everybody yet. I have 115 newcomers left. We'll get there though. Did you have anything else on the offense, defense overview? If not, we can kind of get back to these last few questions and then probably wrap it up from there.
Yeah, let's do that. And like I said, I think we'll be going back to a practice here in the next couple of weeks, so should have some new content or new things to talk about. And then, we'll also have the FIBA stuff. We'll get to watch Jacobson. We'll get to watch Meyer in those FIBA games as well. So we'll have lots to talk about in a few weeks. Yeah.
So plenty of stuff coming over the next few months. But yeah, we'll get to these last few questions, then we'll get out of here. From Kurt Maines, anyone know how much about Murphy's defense and rebounding? He better be making jump shots. Is what I'm saying. he better be knocking down threes, or else I don't think he gets playing time.
Yeah, that was. I thought he got out physicaled on some of the tape that I watched where they played better teams. And I don't know that he's a plus defender. Like if he can hold up defensively, if he can just hold up defensively,
that's all you're hoping for.
And bang 4 or 5 threes, 3 threes a game.
Yeah.
And shoot him quick and shoot him every time he's open, then I'm good with it.
Yeah, I really don't see him getting more than like 10 minutes a game, truthfully. Now, if the defense does hold up, I don't expect it to, truthfully. Like, I just straight up don't think it will. But if it does, then that's when he can start getting more. But yeah, he's going to be out there to space the floor offensively, shoot the ball. And then that's, again, where the bet is that Clough and Jacobson are just going to be able to kind of cover up all these gaps defensively, and it'll be good enough. Dave Head says, will Paint take advantage of the depth and ball handling and rest Braden 5+ minutes a game? I don't know about the plus on that, but I assume 5 minutes-ish is what he'll rest, because there is also the whole, like, hey, this is like the best player in the country type thing. Like, you probably do want him out there as much as possible. But yeah, it'll be easier to find him, a minute or two, maybe 3-minute rest in the first half and a minute or two in the second half for a lot of games, I think, just given the depth.
Yeah. And I think there's a question of how close are games late. This feels like a year where there could be a decent amount of non-conference games and maybe even some Big Ten games where we saw it last year, some in the year before, where he can dip into that bench a little bit more. So maybe it's not consistently that he gets 8 minutes out of a game, but certainly could be somewhere he is. Also, let's remember, not that personal records are going to be a huge thing. But if Braden
He's going after the
averages
assist record.
if Braden averages what he did last year, 9.4 assists per game, it would take him 14 games, maybe 15 games. I forget what the decimal was. 14 games to break the Big Ten record and 34 games to break the NCAA assist record. If you go by career average, if you go by career average, that's a little bit lower. But if you go by last year's average,
pretty good at basketball. I do think so.
Yeah.
Still waiting to see if he's just like Zach Edey made though. So maybe we'll figure that out this year. Yeah, like I do also think there's two other quick things to add for me to that. One, towards the end of the season, especially like tournament time, he's just going to play like 38, 39 minutes. It's just probably going to have to happen. Especially in turn, like I would rather Braden play 40 minutes in a do or die game than 35. And be like, well, those 5 minutes kind of fell apart. The other thing, though, is like this whole, and I don't know if Painter would ever even talk about it or consider it, but like, right, we've talked about there are these expectations of like this is a team that can go deep, and so in the regular season, do you value that more, or do you as we've hear Painter every single year what their goals are to win their Thanksgiving tournament, then win the Big Ten tournaments. Big Ten, then Big Ten tournaments, although the Big Ten tournaments maybe not quite on that list.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving tournament, Big Ten championship, and then go deep in the March Madness. It's kind of hard, like, to value both the Big Ten championship and the deep March Madness run at the same exact time. Like, if you could argue, well, you could just sit some minutes now knowing, hey, the bigger goal is coming in March, but also there's no guarantee come March, as we all know. And so you go and win the Big Ten championship as you can. And that's little things, right, where it's a couple minutes here or there that ultimately won't have too big a deal, but they are little things that add up over a 31-game schedule. So those will be other things to monitor. Did you have anything else on that?
Mm-mm.
Derek Mulkin said, any thoughts on all the Luke Ertl hype and video? My thoughts are, truthfully, I got 115 more Big Ten newcomers to watch. That's where my film analysis has been. I know he's been going off. I haven't watched him at all yet.
Yeah, I've just watched a little bit, but it really seems like he's coming to his own, both as a shot maker himself and a creator for others. Jumps 82 spots on, is it 24/7 or 247? I've always wondered.
I think it's 24/7. I think it's 24/7. I'll ask somebody after. But I think it's 24/7. But I always say 2 for 7.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, jumps 82 spots there. The other two, I don't know if they adjusted quite yet. But like the hype's real. Like he was playing against other peers that were supposed to be at the same level. He still showed out in a very, very big way. A lot of press that I read on, I forget what that was, but that like the Nike Top 100 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Exactly which one it was, but I mean the write-ups on it. Everybody who did a write-up on it was dropping his name as like showing out and impressing, especially for where at the time he was ranked.
Yep. So next summer, I promise you, we will have in-depth analysis on Luke Ertl. It'll come, but probably 12 months away on that one. Jason DePew says, what about a TKR Clough Jacobson front court? That would be fun to see if it could work. Braden and whoever else at the two. I don't think I can maybe get behind Clough and Jacobson. And honestly, when I first kind of skimmed over the comments, that's what I thought you said. And now as I read it, that's where the surprise came from. I was like, oh, you included TKR in this as well. It'd be massive. It would be, I mean, I don't know. I guess you're just basically defensively. You sell out on the perimeter and have Jacobson and Clough camp and say try to make it over them. Let's start with Clough and Jacobson together first.
Who's playing the three?
I don't even think
Who's
that's
playing
a
the
guarantee.
three?
TKR.
We're running TKR off of ball screens and pin downs and handoffs. And...
Well, it would just be it'd be your normal offense, but it would be a lot more pick and roll, a lot more post up, and Jacobson would be the one spacing.
Yeah,
if the jumper comes.
Hey, Clough is like 75% from three in his career.
Yeah, 5 for 7. something like that.
Yes. Not on very many attempts.
But yeah, I'm just gonna say maybe let's just get Clough and Jacobson on the floor together first, and if that happens, then we can maybe start talking about throwing TKR in there. But because I don't even know if Clough and Jacobson will happen. And the last question, unless I just want to skim through. Yep. Last question that we have here from Brad Prather, just for fun. Any predictions on Braden National Player of the Year? That would just be incredible with first Zach and then Braden, 2 players both severely overlooked. I mean, he's got to be. He's one of. Is he the favorite? I assume, or one of, if not the favorite.
He's the favorite. He's the favorite. And I'm guessing. Go ahead.
I don't really got I think he'll be one of, if not the favorites. He should probably just be the favorite. There is a concern that if TKR is also a first team All-American, it's people will argue well, Braden's, he has TKR next to him type thing. But yeah, I don't even honestly, don't know off the top of my head who else there would even be. Uzan, I guess, from Houston would probably be up there.
Yeah.
He's the first one that jumps into my head.
Maybe the freshman at BYU.
Oh, Debansa, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about freshmen, Boozer, Duke, I'm all in on him. But there's going to be plenty of guys, but Braden,
he's plus 500 right. He's plus 500 in betting odds right now to win National Player of the Year. So
is that the favorite?
What 16.7% chance basically that he wins based on betting odds right now. Yeah, he's the favorite.
Where's TKR on that? Is he on there?
I don't know, man. I gotta go.
I thought you just had it.
I know he is on there. I know he is on there for sure.
What if it comes down to those two? What if they're both finalists? Because they do the award show or whatever for it. What if they're both finalists? That would be
crazy.
I feel like the whole team would have to just go out and just go for the trip.
He's plus 1,800, so
that's not that.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 5th. Basically right now in betting odds.
And I think that sums it up. This Purdue team is going to be good, man. This team is going to be so much fun. There's still plenty of summer, but
yeah. Man. My thing is, if it is clear that Braden is going to break Bobby Hurley's all-time assist record, I don't think there's a chance in hell anybody else wins National Player of the Year.
Yeah, as long as Purdue lives up to that.
What? Too. That was early 90s that thing's been around since. So yeah. I don't think if he is on pace and he's going to break that record, I just don't even think it's a question.
It's fair. That is very, very fair. So I think we'll call it there for this one. We do appreciate all the support and plenty of just good comments throughout. Excited that we're back. I don't know specifically when we'll do the next one, but sometime within the next month for sure. Probably within the next few weeks, we'll figure something out. So whether it be practice or we start our newcomers, but there will definitely be stuff at some point coming out. You can follow Kraig on Twitter at KraigBowers34, me on Twitter at JoeJacksonCBB. I'm also going to plug Feed the Post Substack again if you want an in-depth breakdown of the newcomers, film analysis, stats, as a prep to when we do our own breakdown here on Boilers in the Stands. Felt good to be back. I was a little kind of it was kind of nice not doing these, but once I got back and turned on the camera, I was like, oh yeah, this is fun, and kind of remind me this team's going to be incredibly good. So do you got anything else before we get out of here?
Last thing, watch. I have a show coming up. Was gonna be earlier this week, and then something came up, but we are gonna have Ken Halpin on from Purdue Athletic Department to talk about the House settlement and everything that means. That is not something Joe enjoys talking about, so I'm actually going to have our friend Casey Bartley come on with me for that show. But House settlement is out. What does that mean? What does profit sharing mean? What does that do to collectives? What does it do in regards to Title IX in terms of women's sports, men's sports, everything else? We're going to have a conversation about all that, how it's going to work, how payments are going to happen, and everything else. So that'll be coming up sometime as soon as I get it rescheduled with Ken. Really looking forward to diving in there because I do geek out about the little stuff like that on the athletic.
See, yeah, I'm not going to be on it because this would be me the whole show. Like, for anybody that's listening on audio, it was just me staring at the camera. I know there's 15 scholarships. Also, walk-on sorta don't count for the next 4 years. And as somebody who does keep pretty in-depth track of all rosters and things, it's just a slight annoyance that I'm going to be annoyed with for the next 4 years. But it is what it is. Money sharing, all that stuff. But yeah, that'll be a good show. I'll definitely tune in because, like I said, not something I'm super familiar with, and it should be a good, informative show. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you at some point this summer when we're back for whatever it is that is next. And yeah, until then, boiler up.